start our side event. May I call our panelists to come to the table, please? Come to the stage. Gretchen, Daniel, John, Charles, Jianhui. Yeah, take any seat you like. We don't have the order here, so.
So sit anywhere, is it?
Yeah, any seat that feel comfortable, please.
Okay, please. Sorry.
Okay. To break legs.
Sorry. Oh,
I left my book in my
Okay,
room.
I think.
Okay. It works, thank you.
I think we can switch off the.
Mics?
Shall we start? Okay. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this side event. The innovative ways for increasing timeliness and coverage of SDG indicators. Welcome you all to this important the side event for this UN World Data Forum. We will have about 1 hour time, so the time is fairly short. But this side event is organized and co-sponsored by the International Research Center of Big Data for Sustainable Development Goals, CBUS, also by the CAST UN Consultative Committee on Disaster Risk Reduction, CCDR, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the Environmental Systems Research Institute, ESRI, and the Public Foundation. I have the honor to moderate this session. And for this panel, this side event, we have distinguished panelists. I think everyone have this introduction, the names, and very senior and expert from this field. We will have two special the guest for the opening remarks. May I first invite Professor Guo Huadong to deliver your remarks. Professor Guo.
Sorry, Yana, here is a man and first, should be a lady first. Well, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all who are joining us today for this session, focusing on innovative ways to increase the timeliness and coverage of SDG indicators. The theme of this event holds important value as we approach the midpoint of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. At this stage, it's imperative to not only track what we have achieved, but also identify our shortcomings, what we are missing, and how to address those issues to accelerate the progress towards SDGs to meet the 2030 Agenda. In this endeavor, data is a valuable resource that can aid us in monitoring and assessing the SDGs. I firmly believe that Big Earth data provides us with innovative methods to utilize the power of digital technology to its full extent. With the help of accurate, diverse, and equivocal data, we can gain valuable insights to provide decision makers with the information they need to make informed choices. However, we cannot accomplish this alone. Cross-disciplinary use of data and joint research is crucial. We must break down traditional scholars and cooperate across different fields by bringing together experts from various backgrounds to foster innovative solutions. Partnership building is also crucial to drive progress towards SDGs. We need to build a strong scientific partnership and forge relationships with stakeholders from the different sectors such as higher education, private tech companies, UN agencies, and international organizations. By working together, we can leverage our collective experience, expertise, and resources to accelerate progress and achieve our shared goals. Achieving the SDGs is a global challenge that requires a global response. To this end, CBAR, International Research Center for Big Data for Sustainable Development Goals, is making all the efforts to work with partners from around the world by sharing our knowledge and resources and developing collaborative initiatives to achieve progress towards SDGs through our CBAR's Global SDG Partnership Program. In the end, allow me to reiterate that we have the shared responsibility to work towards a more sustainable future. And I'm confident that through our efforts, step by step, we can make a real difference. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Guo, the Director General of International Research Center, Internet Center of Big Data for SDGs. Thank you very much. I think the colleagues, most of us have seen your presentation this morning, and it's very impressive what the CBAS has achieved in the use of the big Earth data for SDG goals and indicators. And thank you very much. Now, may I invite the Director of Secretariat of GEO, the Yana Zhewogayan, for your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the invitation to be here. It's always a pleasure to follow Professor Guo, although the one problem is that once you follow a speaker like Professor Guo, everything has been said so eloquently, 5 minutes, so you're kind of scratching your head, okay, what do I say now? But it's also a good thing because it means that we are thinking in the same ways, and I'm sure it's not just him and I, but all of us. So we can just get down to business and actually unpack how we go about this breaking down the silos and the cross-disciplinary collaboration and cooperation. But since I was asked to give my own reflection on how do we increase the timeliness and accuracy of monitoring and reporting and implementing, achieving SDGs, I think I'll take my opportunity. And I left my notes in my hotel room, so I guess rather than speaking from my notes, I will have to speak from my heart, which maybe is even better. So what do we know about SDGs? I think those of us in this system think SDG has become a household name, pretty much. We've been at it for 8 years. This year we're marking the halfway point in Agenda 2030, and unfortunately, to no surprise, we know we're not on target to meet SDGs by 2030. And as a matter of fact, coming out of COVID, it has been said, we're worse off than we were before because we have experienced a significant setback in our development, and especially those countries who are most vulnerable and most underdeveloped and are really facing the greatest challenges vis-a-vis climate change and biodiversity loss. So for us, emerging in this post-COVID era, while human conflicts are still raging around the world, to build back better, we do need to act faster and smarter and build practical solutions based on big Earth data, based on trusted, proven, vetted knowledge underpinned by good science. One thing we know about SDGs is that they were created to be this integrated framework towards sustainable development. They are a complex system. The International Science Council in 2017 had done a first attempt to study the connections among those 17 goals. And they published a report. It was called Guide to SDG Interactions. Has anyone seen a spider web? Okay, every hand has to go up. Have you seen a spider web in your life? Yes. So those are the interactions among SDGs, synergies and trade-offs all over the place. So if we use our traditional siloed, fragmented mindset towards achieving SDG 2 on food security, we can go ahead and design a policy that will increase the use of land mass for crop production, but at the same time jeopardizing our goals in water sanitation, life on land. So to get this right, we really do need to understand those complex dynamics among those SDGs. And that means looking at them from the outside in and from the inside out. And thankfully, science and technology today has given us the tools. Big Earth data, artificial intelligence, digital twins, Web 3.0, modeling, metaverse. I mean, science technology is having the moment of their life right now, right? So why are we still not seeing those practical solutions at scale and at pace? It is because, as Professor Guo said, I think our biggest challenge is to get the different agencies, the different ministries, the governments, the businesses, the cities, the civil society, able to leverage smartly all of these advances. So we need to focus on creating the right culture, the right data ecosystem use culture to truly be able to act quicker, with more accuracy, while building more trust and social capital. So I'm really delighted that on this panel we have the speakers who represent all of these communities who are involved in using Earth observation, geospatial, statistical data, in solving and putting us back on track towards achieving those sustainable development goals. And I'm really happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yana, for your very important and very inspiring remarks. I think this the role of science technology in the data sciences and how they can contribute to the SDG implementation and help the countries to monitor, to assess the progress and understand the challenges, the driving forces, and how the people can go beyond the silos, the sectors is very important. Today, we have this for this session a very important the expert group from, as you said, from the different the institutions. We have, myself, my name is Han Chun Li. I'm working for CBAS under Professor Guo, but also I'm the executive director of the International Science Council's the program on integrated research on disaster risk, which is also co-sponsored by UNDRR. But we have Charles Braham from Esri, and for anyone who work in the data field, that we know the roles Esri has played, very important. We have the, so thank you for Charles for coming and to share your views. We have the Daniel Daniel Hope from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Thank you for coming. We have Gretchen, Professor Gretchen Kalungi. I had the honor to work in UNESCO time under her. in the natural science sector. And when you were the Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences of UNESCO. And your Professor Kalonji has been long time in the university, the international cooperation between universities, and also is now working in the field of disaster risk reduction. Thank you, Gretchen, for coming. And we have Jianhui Li, who is the Vice President of CODATA under the International Science Council. Thank you, Jianhui. We actually work very close together. Then we have one change because Stephen could not join, and thank you for Stephen's suggestion. We have the great honor to have John Kadal from the SDG Data Alliance to join us. So it's a great pleasure to have you here. Now, colleagues, as you know, the topics we are talking about is about innovative ways to make sure that we have a better timeliness and coverage of data for SDG indicators. And for that, there's a number of issues, challenges we have to deal with. The session we have, the side event we have today, we have two overall themes, key themes. The one is about nurturing the partnership that leave no one behind. Basically, this is about the capacity of the capacity gap between the developing countries and the developed ones, but also about the institutions, how to share the, better their knowledge, tools, but more importantly, the data. So for this one, regarding the nurturing the partnership that leave no one behind, how to improve the capacity of developing countries, narrow the digital gap, the capacities, and how to improve the sharing of the data. For this, I would like to have our distinguished panelists to share your own views and ideas and suggestions. So anyone wanted to take a lead? Yes, yes.
I probably have the easiest answer.
Yeah,
so.
sure.
What we've done as recent 2015 to kind of kick off some of the discussion here is taking a partnership approach to our solutions for the SDGs. And we've done that through working with the tens of thousands of nonprofits around conservation, humanitarian, sustainable development, and trying to understand how they build their applications to support their needs. Early on, I was tasked to take an inventory of applications that could support the SDGs, and now we're halfway through, and we've still been continuing that assessment to support the development of the technology that we deploy to support our users in accomplishing their monitoring report of the SDGs. And that's been through partnerships with many different governments, private sector, academia, nonprofits, and we've now come to a point where we have a solution that aims to allow anybody to monitor and report on the SDGs in a very simplified way. And we've done that through establishing different partnerships, and it's been driven largely by governments that have guided us through the process and use of our technology to serve their needs. So just to mention that we do have now ArcGIS solution for the SDGs, and I like to try to say that I'd like my mom to be able to use it. It should be easy. I think we overcomplicate things a lot, and we have an opportunity with all the work that we all probably do every day to support the SDGs to contribute. So if we're able to harness technology and gather the political will to move forward in that collective web that was mentioned earlier, the spider web that needs to happen for us to actually function. We need to figure out ways to take advantage of the talents we have and move things ahead to achieve the 2030 agenda. So thank you. I just wanted to kick that off as an idea and an opportunity for everyone to take a look at.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Jianhui.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So I just want to share one example, and I will share one point. So CBAS, as introduced by Professor Guo, established big data platforms. I think it's a good example. So we open all the data, not only the data, we open the data analyze services, say the users from maybe the Africa, from the other countries, they just use the tools, use the, the cloud services. They can, do the SDG indicator assessment. I think it's a good idea. It's a good motor to, to make contribute to the global countries, especially the South countries. And in my mind, I think now the big challenge is how to cross to move data across the country or across the continent. It's especially some data might be open, but many data is not open. It's not freely. We call it maybe the closed data or maybe dark data. So you can just use it in your institution, in your country. But how to share this closed data is a big challenge for us. So I think we might should to find a good solution to to share the closed data, not the raw data, but get the information and knowledge from the raw data. We don't need to move data from one country to another country, but we can use it. We can use the information. We can get the information, get the knowledge to do SDG assessment and even SDG research. So that might means we need to a good incentive systems. That means if you give more, you can get more. So, and the second one is maybe we need a new technology solutions, maybe the federation learning, and even to make, as you said, our platforms make it interoperable and make they can interoperability and they can, not only we not just share the raw data. We can share the capacity. We can share the services. We just need the knowledge. So that might be a good motor to, as you mentioned, for the SDG goals. So thank you.
Thank you, Jianhui. Yes, Gretchen, please.
Yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the central role of universities and university partnerships in working towards the SDGs. I mean, it may seem like a given, but actually, we need to be a lot more creative in the higher education sector if we're really going to make dramatic progress. Again, reflecting on the speech by Professor Guo this morning, he gave a very good overview of CBAS. There's another aspect of CBAS which wasn't stressed very much, which is its effort to work together, creating partnerships in the developing world, which is extremely important and, in my opinion, innovative. So, but what do I mean about transformations in higher education? All of us presumably had university experience of one flavor or another. And what we will no doubt recognize is that the university educational processes and its research processes are sort of never the twain shall meet. The interaction between the two is grossly insufficient. And so what we need to do is we need to move towards models of multinational, multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary collaboration in university networks. They could be bilateral partnerships, but there are many other existing networks of universities that we can strengthen. So I think that's part of the potential secret sauce to dramatically enhance our ability to contribute. And I'd be happy to talk with anyone who's interested later on about the pragmatics of this and how to do it. And particularly, we need to do it at the undergraduate level, not just at the master's and PhD level. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. I think we know for decades that it has been pushing for this multidisciplinary, intersectory multinational university cooperation. I think you have made a good achievement in Sichuan University since you come to work in that university. I am sure that our audience, participant here may be interested to learn more later on that. Yes, yes, John.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'm John Kedar, standing in for Stephen from the Public Foundation. I want to take a slightly different view to this, and I want to go to country level, because actually it's not with the SDGs about indicators flourishing everywhere. It's about actions taken at a local level that enables us to move forward and develop. And so I want all of us to sort of think of it from an individual country level here. I then want to say something that the Secretary General of the United Nations said in October. He said, "We need your geospatial expertise on two fronts, to measure progress and to make progress." So I want to take the conversation into, again, actions locally to make progress. I do that as an introduction to the SDG Data Alliance. It's a partnership between industry, donors, and the United Nations to, first of all, measure progress and to make progress in individual countries. And it's about the country building up its capacity. There are two of our partner countries in the room here, South Africa and Cameroon. It's not about going in and delivering reports and delivering consultancy recommendations. It's about building the capacity in the country to create better geospatial information and to, using Esri technology, understand progress against SDGs within the country so that you understand where to invest scarce resources within the country. You can make decisions and work out where to invest. So that's what the SDG Data Alliance is really doing. And the biggest partner of all in all of this is the country, because they're doing the work, not us. We advise, we support, but they're doing the work. And I just want to close, because I think this collaboration one, we've talked about lots of partnerships so far, but I just want to talk about in country. Because actually every single one of us lives in countries where government departments don't work together, don't talk to each other, and yet actually we're not going to progress unless we can generate that working across government. And that's something the SDG Data Alliance focuses on with our countries and helps countries sort of take that step forward. It's a really important point. And I think, as we talk partnerships, that's one we must never lose sight of. I think I'll shut up there, but that's just some introductory points.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, then Daniel.
So building on what John was talking about on a more micro or country level, I think there are some ways that from a more grassroots perspective, we can have progress towards this sharing. Obviously, the ideal is to have these active bilateral lines of communication with direct alliances and et cetera, or to have these more centralized agencies or organizations like CBAS, where you kind of centralize the information and share it and make it available to people to use for SDG indicator calculation, et cetera. But I think there's also a lot that can be done on the individual level to kind of contribute to the broader body of knowledge in the work going around calculating SDGs. And I think that starts a lot with publicizing the methods that people use to calculate their analyses for SDGs. So that's not just publishing the results of your analysis, but it's also the methods that you use to get there in a way that another agency or individual could follow that and reproduce it for their geography for a different indicator, but has a similar input data set. For instance, if you're using geospatial information and you get a variable out of it, like crop coverage in a region, to make that method of how you calculate that downstream number publicly available, so that if someone in a different region can find that information and use it for a different geography. These are small ways that on an individual level, because at the end of the day, there are many different agencies, many different individuals working towards quantifying progress on the SDGs. If this type of work is taken on by the individual to make that public, we will have a lot less duplication of work and a lot more knowledge sharing across institutions where individuals can find resources that are relevant to them without having to necessarily be in direct contact with a big initiative or international organization, but just have these resources available online to find for themselves. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I thank you very much for the panelists. I'm not sure that our audience will raise a hand, but I think so far for our first round, and I feel that you have touched upon a quite important point. Um, the, the issue of the partnership between the government and the special private sectors and the special expert the companies like what Charles has mentioned, the new partnership, the incentive systems that Jian Hui has mentioned, how to enable, facilitate the data sharing, the inter-university or university cross-sector interdisciplinary, but also the university across the national borders that to work together. The, the issue that John has mentioned that how to make it's not about the reporting as such, but is to make sure that the data itself has the real impact and bring the changes on the local and within the country, across the sectors, as well as the Daniel mentioned that how to enable the knowledge and sharing through the platforms between the public and between the institutions and the individuals. These are the quite important, we reach the point already. I don't know if any expert want to raise a hand. Yes, madam. If any microphone, please.
Thank you, and thanks to the panel.
Yes, please mention where you're from, your name. Please. Identify yourself, please. Thank you.
My name is Marwale Mimi Chauke from South Africa, but I'm also the chair for UNGGM Africa.
Thank you.
So I think I want to agree with what John Kader was saying, that the implementation and monitoring of SDGs starts at the country level. But we need to work together at the national department, as national departments towards a common goal of delivering these SDGs. But we know that we don't work together. And I'm a trained statistician, but now I have been converted into a passionate lover of geospatial data. So equally, even within ourselves as statisticians and as geospatial information specialists, we're struggling to work together. The UN has put a framework in place on the integration of geo and statistics. I think that's the first step to start working together and appreciating implementing that framework. And working at our national level, at our local level, at our provincial level, working together to achieve the SDG. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I think this within the country, even sometimes within the one institution, there is this to get the data sharing and to work to make the people work together. It's not it's a challenge. It's a permanent challenge. This I think eventually will lead to our next part of the discussion, because now with the technologies, with the increasing the availability of the share open data platforms, I think this will help to change. And but we know that the open access, open science are still in the process. But eventually, this may help within the institutions, between institutions, within the countries, sectors, to improve the data sharing. As Yana mentioned at the beginning, we need a cultural, we need a new culture of sharing. That I think this for this is the direction that we all have to move on. Here's another question to the panelists. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Banabe Kuda from Cameroon, National Institute of Statistics. It's not really a question, but an advocacy I want to make for the less developed countries. According to this issue of partnership and sharing data and practice, in more developing countries like mine, we are facing a problem which needs to be solved. Is the one of to adapt the legislation, national legislation of the national statistical system. If you have to go together with other actors that have to share practice and data for to improve our needs, this problem is based for sometimes on national legislation that avoid and forbid the practice to go together. Because you have some articles in this in national law that says, according to confidentiality, and make national institutes or national system work in silos and not open. So we need to open our mind and to change our practice. That's the advocacy I want to make. And the other one is the importance of the financial support from private sector. In more in developed countries like mine and others in Africa, the main support financially is from the state, from the government, and secondly from external donors. But the national private sector is not really involved and engaged to finance statistical activity and data production. So we need also to advocate for them to move in this area to finance the statistical programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yana, you wanted to respond to that? Yes. No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Please go ahead. John, you want to respond to that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's in fact, both points are really important points. I just wanted to touch on the industry perspective, because industry, what it's really good at is developing applications that can use the data, providing there's some money to be made, but developing applications that can use the data that creates the knowledge to change things and improve our lives. And I'll give an example, a very simple example. But it's one of the SDGs is around improved efficiency in farming small holdings, in fact, doubling the efficiency effectively. Now, we can achieve that in a whole range of ways, technology-wise. But to me, bringing data together on a simple smartphone application is one solution. Industry delivers the application, government can deliver data, and you know the wider Earth observation community and so on and so forth. And we can create the change that is necessary to help achieve that particular target under the SDGs. So I think the partnership with industry is really important, but I think I would add to your point about, you know, as a data provider, I think it's absolutely about delivering the applications that use data to support the change that we're all trying to achieve. So just adding to your point there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Yana? No. You can hear me, right? Yes.
I'm going to take advantage of the fact that countries are in the room. Allow me. I want to ask a question about incentives. What would incentivize right? You've described a very complex, difficult, frustrating situation. So what would incentivize the agencies to actually work together? From our data provider side, I feel like, I'm going to channel Charles a little bit. We don't always make things very easy in terms of the way we deliver that data, even the solutions. And from a statistician's perspective, I can see how you'll be like, okay, I heard this Earth observation community talk about how remote sensing can help me do a survey a lot faster and more cost effectively. I'm going to go and check things out. And suddenly, it's not as easy actually to get that data, the insights that you need, and you say, you know what, the heck with it. At least I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to stick to my old-fashioned traditional surveying methods that I know. I'm just painting a worst-case scenario, which may be a pretty real scenario. So what are the incentives that we could really tap into to engage the statisticians and other non-traditional users of remote sensing, get other Earth observation data, to bring about that change?
Yes, the question to everyone. That is, anyone want to give a response to that? Yeah. Yes, Madam.
I think it's a tricky and interesting question. My name is Ivanilda. I'm the UNRCO data manager in Cabo Verde, Cape Verde Islands. It's something I would say that it should firstly come top down. The leadership has to come top down. What happens is at the country level, the agencies don't communicate because they are not mandated to do their work to communicate at the country level. So even though if we try to coordinate, to bring them to work together, they don't have, let's say, that comes from the top down saying, you have to work together. And then go to the statistics office or even at the country level to try to bring them together. And one thing that Mr. John was saying, working together, you have to look at the country perspective. Cabo Verde is a small country, 500,000 inhabitants, a seeds country, and also depending a lot on what is happening outside. For instance, the climate change is actually an impact in the country that moves everything. And when we talk about working together, you have to think of what the country needs, in fact, working together, but at the same time, sometimes it's overwhelming the National Statistics Office because one wants to work in this, the other one wants to work in the same thing, and the third one in the same thing. So that's why bringing everyone together is very important. And also when we think about the sustainability, you work together, but then you have to follow up. We don't have the following up. You have trainings, you have investments, you have a lot that the country needs, but then we don't know how to apply it. Although people have this knowledge, after some time, we have to apply it. If you don't apply it, then it comes another version, the 2.0, 3.0, but still, we are still in the 1.0 because we couldn't implement it. And the third thing that maybe just quickly is about the language. We have to think of the language, the local language, what we understand. We may have trainings in English, in French, but we understand Portuguese. So this applies for all the countries. Sometimes it's even the local language that you have to communicate in order for us to understand how to apply any knowledge and trainings that maybe developed our country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to incentivize governments to innovate. I think I do know that our colleagues from South Africa and Cameroon are innovating now. Part of that is just due to the fact that geospatial is a collaborative exercise in and of itself. You cannot capture geospatial information in a silo. So we have an opportunity to share our best practices with the statistics community, which actually I come from too, with and take advantage of those practices. We also have an opportunity to work together. You know, one thing I wanted to just express in the beginning is that I would urge you to talk to your neighbor here. Forge a partner with the person sitting next to you. Because building the relationships are what's going to need to take place before you can implement any type of policy. So we need to step back again, keep it simple, and talk to each other, create the relationships, and build things together so that we don't have the barriers and the silos that exist today. From a technology standpoint, that's what Esri has done. We're one of the top 50 cloud providers in the world, and we're not a cloud provider. That's not because of Esri. That's because of our users. You all, others, people in this room. It's the success of you all that we are where we are today. And we know that that won't happen without that partnership approach. So I would urge some of the official statistics community to learn from some of the process of the geospatial community. And again, coming back to the geospatial and statistical integration, we need to not just adopt that, we need to rapidly advance it, because where we are careening towards the sun, we're improving that process. We have to change the way we're doing things. We're not going to go back or stop at a stagnant point. So these partnerships and its application to business, the markets, will drive statistics agencies forward no matter what. But at the same time, we need to take advantage of the gaps we know we have and filling those gaps with the knowledge we know we have. So I just wanted to share that point.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Charles, very important comments indeed. John, you still want to make a quick one?
Yeah, very quick actually, and it goes back to Jana's question, but ties in with what the lady from Cape Verde was saying. I think one of the incentives is about focusing on a key challenge in a country, a key challenge that the country identifies, and it could be around the risk of disasters through climate change or something, but focus on a challenge and don't worry about bringing everyone together. If a core group of government agencies or an industry and others come together just for that one challenge, then you start to get an incentive to work together, to go back to your point. So that was really what I wanted to say. On an SDG perspective, with, you know, back to the exam question of monitoring progress of SDGs in the country, if you can get the geospatial, the statistics, and the government ministry or organization that coordinates SDG activity, if you can get the three talking together and working as the core, then you start to be able to reach out to others once you're moving. So that's what I'd add.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I know that our Gershon, you wanted to make. I'm sorry for that. Yes, please.
Thank you, ladies and
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Gershon.
Thank you. My name is Naseli. I'm coming from Zambia. I work with the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, but my previous background has been in a national statistical office, so I'm enjoying these conversations. So I wanted to comment about how do we incentivize, how do we allow NSOs, how do we work together, how do we ask them to like embrace some of these modern methods. So one thing I wanted to say is, with a background of working in an NSO, one thing we need to work towards, especially in our region, is how do we embrace these non-traditional methods, because we have methods and processes of conducting surveys, of collecting data, but then now we have modern methods, and that allow us to be more effective. For example, using Earth observation data, using remote sensing, using these various tools and platforms. So from the NSO perspective, is probably sitting together with them and trying to look at their processes and encouraging them that, look, try to see it at a point of effectiveness and efficiency, because we're all speaking about providing timely data to speak to SDGs and all these other innovations. How does this not just replace what you're doing, but how does it make you more effective? How does it add more value to what you're doing? Not really replacing everything you always do, but then how does it add value? And then how does it help you achieve your goals? So sometimes NSOs will have to embrace non-traditional methods, especially that sometimes we have other challenges, maybe financial challenges, and so we can't do certain surveys on time. And so we have to be able to embrace other methods. So like emphasizing the point of partnerships and working together in country as well as with other humanitarian development organizations that are actually providing this data. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you very much for your important comments. I think there will be a lot of more feedback, but in the interest of time, I think we have about 10 minutes left. What I would like to move to the next one, brief the views, inviting our panelists to give some comments on the role of a data scientist in improving the work for the SDG indicators. And then what kind of changes we need to improve the connections or the collaboration or unity of the existing networks, the platforms, and instruments. So please give some comments from yes, Gretchen.
Well, I just wanted to make the key point that, there are a lot of existing networks and partnerships, and we need to be a little bit more scholarly in looking at what's actually working and try and understand why. And I want to give an example from my UNESCO period. We do have these intergovernmental science programs, which combine to a certain extent implementing things in the national level, but also identifying common challenges. And a great example is the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program with 169 national committees. So the national committees work together at the national level, but the whole body works together to define a common agenda. And typically a 6-year coordinated plan of action, which is very, very much focused on concrete, specific, cutting edge challenges related to the water sphere. So that's a good example of an existing partnership.
Thank you. Jianhui.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I would just give some point about the data science the role. I think it's crucial for SDG the assessment and the research. As data scientists, they will help us to to manage data and even get data and get information, knowledge from the data. So it's very important for SDG the research and indicators assessment. But in my mind, I think maybe the capacity building to training, to have some training workshop for scientists to have them to have the skill, the data analysis skill or the digital technologies. That's the key issue. So this is the first point. Secondly, you mentioned so what's the infrastructure or what's the tools, what do we need to have to SDGs? So I think actually I like to share some examples. So as sometimes we are not only the data provider, but also the data users. So how to build a virtual research cooperation environment or cloud-based or network-based. So if you want to solve problems or challenges, so we can set up, establish the virtual organizations. So if you show your data in these platforms, you can get more. So that will a good. Because my background, technical background, I'm always thinking how to implement, make our incentive systems work. So I prefer to have a platform, so to encourage all the stakeholders focus on one problems. Just they will establish the trust in research environment. They can share everything, and if you put more, you give more, you can you can get more. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Daniel. Yes.
So again, following up on that about the role of data science in this new kind of data infrastructure, I think that they play a very important role, because the reality is that when we talk about these geospatial data, alternative data, big data, to actually get them into a usable form is a much more complex pipeline than if we're talking about traditional survey data. You can't email somebody a couple of images of geospatial information, expect them, a statistician, to get useful information out of it. The reality is that somewhere in that pipeline you need data scientists to have their hands on it to convert it. So where those data scientists sit, I think, is kind of open. You could have them more centralized on CBAS's platform or on Esri, where they have the capacity for data science and they produce the statistics, publish them, and then the end users don't need those capacity to process the geospatial data, simply use the calculated information. But ideally, you do have some data science capacity at every end user stage to be able to tweak the information, increase coverage, etc. So yeah, to answer the question, I think data science plays a very crucial role because of that change in the complexity of the pipelines of getting useful information out of this kind of sea of data, as opposed to very discrete survey information that is very clear and easy to use. So that'll be an interesting relationship going forward, where the data scientists sit and how they kind of disseminate the knowledge gained from the big data.
Yes, thank you. Charles?
I would just, again, I'm a technical person. I'm trying to keep that away from the discussion today, but I do have to say, if we looked at everybody in this room and I asked you, when you were young, did you know a data scientist? You'd probably say no, right? So I think we need to be realistic. Geographers have been data scientists since inception. We've been doing big data processes for 50 plus years. It's nothing new. What we need to do, and what we see in industry, is to make tools that everyone can use. Big data, data science, for example, when you talk about big data, what does that really mean even? Big data can be many different things. It can be a URL shortener. A URL shortening, when you put a URL, long URL in, and you don't want to send that to someone, you want to shorten that URL, like bit.ly. There's a bunch of different ones. That's a big data exercise, but is it big data? So we need to figure out what we're actually terming so that we can settle on something that can actually work. We don't necessarily need to define ourselves. We need to use the tools. So we have a lot of opportunities to do that, and I think taking advantage of the opportunities. I do want to also say that through the SDG Data Alliance, we're learning a lot about how countries want to absorb technologies. And they're making leaps and bounds ahead of even developing countries in their ability to absorb complex technologies that are simplified in a manner that they can understand and build upon. And we're learning new things from them. And I think that's where we need to focus. Just taking the tacit knowledge of the people and trying to apply it to what we have existing in front of us so that we can then share it back in the fashion that they need it. So these are really important things that we're doing under the SDG Data Alliance within our technology. We also have other partners that we're working with within that partnership around blockchain and innovation. These are all opportunities for countries, and not just countries, but organizations to become involved. And the last point is there are existing frameworks that can drive those innovations. So there's what's called the Integrated Geospatial Information Framework that can be applied to specific statistical and geospatial processes, and then tools built upon those. So we have a lot of opportunities. It's just about putting those into perspective for the situations we're facing today. Today we're talking about the SDGs, but it can be many different things. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for all the comments from our distinguished panelists. I'm reminded by our secretariat, conference secretariat, that we have now 4 minutes left. So unless is there any urgent the question that you from our audience want to raise to the panelists, otherwise I will just wrap it up for the session. So anyone wanted to raise a hand? Jianhui?
Yeah, I just so echo this guy. I think it's great. So I think the tools is very important for SDG data analysis, but especially for specific tools to to process data and analyze data for SDG indicators. So I'm thinking, so what's the industrial rule? If they or it should be all the who will be responsible for developing these tools and share these tools to everyone? So this is a question. So I think CBAS is trying to develop some tools for the indicator calculating online, but it just started. We call for maybe more partners, especially from industry, from the university, from any organizations. We can working together to deliver more and more tools to help everyone can use this data to get information, get knowledge to make decision making. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have 3 minutes now that John is very quick.
I'll be very quick. I just wanted to stress, and I think thank you for making that point. Industry is absolutely key to this. And you heard Charles talk about the platforms that Esri is setting up that are used by the SDG Data Alliance. There's no way we can leave industry out of our partnerships when we're having these discussions. I just wanted to also add in a very small way, how many data science courses at university actually really have geospatial modules in? Are we bringing these disciplines together that Charles talked about? And I don't think we are as well as we should be, because we've got, and Mimi said earlier, we've got to bring this data community closer together, and that starts right with education. I'll shut up.
Thank you, John. Well, I don't. Then I will try to wrap up. Actually, it's impossible to just in 1 minute for such a rich conversation dialogue. But I think some from the discussion and the views expressed by our panelists, I hear a few things that I believe we need to note down. Well, first about what ultimate incentives and necessity that we work together. What is the benefit from that? I think Yana has raised this question to everybody, to the country, which we need to think more. But to me, I think the SDGs as a package and the indicators, they are by definition request all the countries and communities to work together. Because unless you work together, we won't make SDG reached successful. And we won't even understand the connections, the problems, because they are all interlocked and impacting to each other. So there are numerous examples for that. I think this is understand. However, to make such things the change to happen, we will need, I think I get to the key word that we need to change the culture of working and to change the concept of working together in using the new technologies for data processing. We need to have a new culture of sharing. That is important. And but that is not enough because the capacities are diverse and there are actual the gaps in the technology. And for that, I think some of the industries, the technology institutions, like for instance, Esri or geospatial communities, has made a lot of pilot cases which can be learned from, we can learn from that. But we need to invest in capacity development especially for developing countries. We need to pay attention that the data we are dealing with, SDG are global targets, but they are also national and local. It has to be meaningful to the community as a grassroots. Unless that happens, And I don't think the exercise will be successful. And finally, the technology, science technology, has a tremendous potential in facilitation of our work in attaining SDG indicators. And this, the global call by UNESCO and by International Science Council for open science, for open access, and the CBAS, ESRI, and many, the platform developed under the United Nations are providing the data service as the common service. So science is a common, the property, common product. So that, I think with this, we can wrap up our session, and I encourage that we keep contact with each other to follow up the further discussion. I want to thank you very much for the audience to raise your hand and engage for this conversation, and a big hand to our distinguished panelists. Thank you. Okay, so the session is closed. Thank you very much.